Okay, ladies and gentlemen, like a great story. We talked about authenticity, we talked about being brave, but how do you wrap that up all together and put that into your everyday life? How do you put that into a marketing environment? Well, we wanted to put together a collection of people who are working at brands that are challenging the everyday norms of marketing, who are challenging the way you think and how we can connect with consumers. And they're trying to bring together all of those elements and put them into what we're calling a challenger brand mentality. So to kind of put us that way, we've got two amazing challenger brands that also are having a social impact around the world and are aiming for things other than just selling product or trying to increase their services. They're actually trying to have an impact, which is wonderful. And what we've also got is an established brand that is trying to change the way it thinks and create a new way of marketing. So it's going to be a lovely conversation. We're trying a four-way conversation here, so we're almost creating a square so that everyone can see you at every moment. For those of you who haven't done it yet, as you open the app, you'll be asked to do a questionnaire to find out what sort of challenger brand you are. So that will tie in nicely to this conversation. But without further ado, let's welcome to the stage our moderator for this session. It is, of course, Hugh Cameron, the chairman of PhD UK.
This is the bit, as you can tell, we haven't actually rehearsed. Go grab a seat. Sit down. I think it was Tom Ford that said when he's organizing a catwalk show, he has 8 minutes, and he has 8 minutes to make an impact. So the first 30 seconds is a crucial moment to get everybody off their mobiles. And as you can see, we didn't manage that. We didn't rehearse the walk, but at least we tried to walk in from both ends. Example of challenger thinking. So this panel this morning is about why now is the new golden age, we think at PhD, for challenger thinking in media and marketing. It was Adam Morgan that first coined the phrase challenger brands back in the 1990s. And since then, challenger thinking, guided by him, has inspired and fueled a whole generation of brands to think and behave differently, to disrupt categories, and to have a wider point of view. And over the last decade, challenger strategy has entered the mainstream. And in a world where growth is absolutely an imperative, many more mainstream brands have adopted challenger methods. And in this period, PhD, in partnership with Eat Big Fish, authored a study of brands called Overthrow, looking at the different narratives that different brands adopted and consigning to history, really, the notion that challenger theory was all about the battle between Davids versus Goliaths. And now in the world that we often discuss in these kind of festivals, on these kind of conferences, a world of dramatic disruption, uncertainty, and turbulence, we've decided to publish a second edition of Overthrow. And it's really a compass through the chaos that I think many of us find ourselves working and living in. And it recognizes particularly that there's a new world and a new range of opportunities. And we're calling it potentially a golden age of challenger brands. And it's very much inspired by, certainly in London, the investment community suddenly getting really behind challenger theory and challenger brands. Up to £1.5 billion is currently flowing through challenger brands in London alone. And there's been a huge shift in America, £22 billion of investment from traditional category leaders towards smaller companies growing very, very quickly. So really the question is, if you're not a challenger, how are you growing? How are you creating momentum? And crucially, how are you creating impact in the world that so many challenger brands are seeking to address, and then create a ripple through society? So I'm now going to ask, although I've suddenly noticed I haven't got the clicker, so maybe somebody could, Tom, thank you very much. I'm now going to allow the panel to introduce themselves. First off, Pascal.
Thank you, Hugh. My name is Pascal van Ham. I'm from the Netherlands, and I'm heading up the global marketing team of Tony Chocolonely. So it's all about chocolates. I don't know if you know the brand, but we're actually an impact company making chocolate. And we're using our product as a change agent to change the industry from within. So we were founded 15 years ago by 3 journalists. And they had this big mission to eradicate modern slavery and illegal child labor in the chocolate industry. So we have a very clear vision, and it's 100% slave-free chocolate. Not only our chocolate, but all chocolate worldwide. So as a company, we are not only sharing our chocolate, but also the way we make our chocolate, so our recipe for 100% slave-free chocolate. So we really think open source, and we inspire others to act. So yeah, if you look at the challenger types, we are definitely a missionary challenger.
Fantastic. And by the way, you can all look at your challenger type outside in the lobby, which I'll talk about later. Michael.
My name is Michael Lee. I'm a creative director at Oatly. Oatly makes stuff to eat from oats, basically all sorts of dairy alternative products. As far as challenger types, I guess you could call us a next generation challenger, insofar as we're really just challenging old world thinking and traditional thinking around plant-based diets, and especially with regards to the climate. So we basically get sued by the dairy industry all over the world. So we have a huge team of lawyers that are helping us out, and ultimately trying to get people to get on board the post-milk generation, which is what we're kind of calling it.
Thanks. And Christine.
Hello, I'm Christine Harder. I'm from Audi. I have been with the company for a good 7 years. I actually started my career with them in China, where I ran marketing, communications, and events. And now for a little bit, I've been with the head office in Germany, and here I'm looking after international media. I would say in the years that I have been with the company already, I've probably seen it through good times, through some very tough times as well. Yeah, Audi is and always had a challenger mentality. Yeah, but of course, like, we're also being incredibly challenged in our own category at current. Yeah, plus we have globally a very different standing. In the US, we're very strongly still the next generation challenger and playing this card as well. In Europe, this is where we came from, but we're certainly one of 3 established brands. And in China, we probably are actually the establishment. So maintaining consistency here and one voice is certainly a day-to-day challenge that doesn't make it any boring.
Great, thank you. So I want to kind of kick off the discussion really with this conversation about why is it a golden age? Is it a golden age for challenger companies and businesses? And I think, Pascal, is this purely opportunity driven, or is there a sense that now is a moment to wrestle with problems? What do you say?
I think it's definitely not opportunity driven. I think we all are becoming aware that there are many problems in the world, and I think we are also becoming aware that brands and corporates and people have a role to play. I think more and more brands can really take a stand on societal issues and work from a purpose or a passion. So yeah, therefore I think the time's up, so time's now.
I mean, and it used to always be the case that challenger brands were trying to quash rivals in categories. Are you trying to do that, or are you trying to do something that's fundamentally different? Where's your balance?
Yeah, we definitely are not in the game of crushing rivals. We want to mobilize our rivals. So we want to change the industry. So we say always we want to raise the bar, literally, and make 100% slave-free the norm in the industry. So we actually are forming a movement for our competitors to join.
Great. So if other brands change and come with you, that's an ambition, sort of a swag fulfilled in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Michael, can I ask you the same thought? What is Oatly challenging? You talked about being a next generation company. And
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting is that you can call it a golden age, but I think for us, it's just the time that we find ourselves in, and the dilemma around climate change and the changes that most of us in the world think we need to make. So in terms of that, I think the challenge is to fight against complacency. And there's just been traditionally this thought that either you're kind of a vegan fanatic, or if you are talking about these issues and you're wearing leather shoes, then you're a hypocrite. And that's really not the conversation that we need to be having. So like as a brand, we try to act like a normal person. Sometimes we're vocal and political, and other times we're just completely nonsensical and unserious. So we are serious and unserious in the face of this climate change, which I think kind of mirrors how most people are about this. And as long as we can get people to take some small steps, those steps will get bigger and bigger and bigger. So.
Okay. I want to kind of come on to the whole area of in Overthrow 2, as I mentioned at the beginning, we discussed different challenger types. And Christian, I just wanted to get, how does having a real clarity of strategic intent, how does that help you at Audi? How has it helped you?
I think historically, Audi, a long time ago in Europe and about 10 years ago in the US, we really had to break into a very established premium car market, yeah? And helping us position it as the old luxury did first of all, like we strongly positioned ourselves and stood for something. Yeah, this is the next generation of what's coming up, but it also helped to deposition the competition very easily and quickly. Yeah, but much more importantly, I think as well internally. So if you have this clear strategic narrative on there, it helps your teams to unite and enthuse them and motivate them, like you're totally fighting for a very same objective. And I think this is, it's an easy but still an incredibly strong narrative to play up to date.
And Pascal, this whole missionary brand, how have you brought that to life? How are you bringing it to life?
Yeah, actually, if I look at my team, marketing at Tony Chocolonely, we do two things, so it's pretty simple. We make incredibly tasty chocolate that you can't ignore because all the colors. And with every bite, you contribute to our mission because the cocoa in our product is sourced directly and bought for a higher price at the cocoa farmers. And the other thing that we do is we create a movement. So we mobilize people, companies, retailers, suppliers to join our mission and to make them aware. The way we do it, we say we're serious about people and crazy about chocolate. So it's a little bit like Michael was saying. We're playing with this thing like, whoa, we're addressing this huge, serious problem. It's about modern slavery, oh my God, and illegal child labor. And there are 2.1 million children working on the cocoa farms. This is so big. You could be depressed when you work like that with these kind of topics. So we also have this very optimistic, fun, crazy outlook at this problem. So combining the serious with the crazy is actually the key driver of our marketing success.
Great. I mean, Michael, it might be worth you talking a little more about the department that you represent at Oatly, with its fantastic name.
Yeah, well, it's called the Department of Mind Control.
And is that supposed to be serious or fun?
Well, most people think either it's pretty cool or really, really stupid. And it's probably a little bit of both. I think it just more comes from this sense that the creative directors and the CEO, we run a food company, but we try not to act like a food company at all. And within the chaos of what we do, it's just these kind of weird ideas kind of pop up, and we just kind of do them. And it just seems to resonate in a way because it just comes off as a bit from left field, and it's something that we're struggling to maintain as we grow at a pretty quick pace.
And do you have a filter? Is there something that helps you curate, edit what you do and you don't do?
Well, the only filter we have is that everything that leaves the door is world class, which is not really a filter. But
it's a good ambition.
Yeah, but you know, anything goes. I mean, we do TV, we do outdoor, we do social. We just do kind of, I don't know, whatever we kind of feel like, to be honest with you.
Right. Christine, talk to me a little more about you work in a very particular category where suddenly you've been challenged. You've been a challenger for many years, different parts of the world. But suddenly a new challenge has arrived kind of on your doorstep. And how has challenger thinking behavior helped you tackle that, respond to that?
Helped, not sure, but we have a reaction, I think. It's, of course, an incredible big business issue that stretches across all departments. I can speak from a marketing point of view, like how we attempt to tackle this, and this is quite clearly with authentic and openness. Yeah, so taking electric for an example, we now are very proud. We recently launched our first electric car, the Audi e-tron, and it came globally under the claim, and everybody was aligned here actually. Electric has gone Audi. So with then, we try to be very confident on the fact that, hey, we are not the first to market. We fully understand that, but thank you very much. We're taking it from here.
Great. Interesting. Right, let's talk a bit more about, sorry, this is a festival of media, we're in Rome. Can we talk a little bit more about media and media behavior in particular? What does media mean for your brand? And you know, how do you think about media? And Michael, could you expand on that? You talked about tradition in media a lot.
Yeah, in terms of our media usage, it's really quite primitive. I mean, we're basically just on huge canvases on the sides of buildings and writing some words on it. So for us, it's really about just putting the message kind of center stage, whether it's complete nonsense or some provocation of the milk industry, and let that just kind of stand out as a beacon on the streets. Most of the momentum that we gain actually is through PR because of the nature of the issues that we're kind of talking about and provoking. So in many ways, we use media as just a trigger for that PR. A massive statement on the side of some building in the center, a huge double-page spread in the major newspapers. So I don't know if that's innovative, but that's what we do.
But it's big media statements that then trigger and reverberate
exactly.
around. Yeah. Pascal, what does media mean at Chocolonely, Tony's Chocolonely?
Media is really, really important for us. It's for us really important to create awareness, to reach people, but also to engage them and activate them. But we don't use paid media. We truly believe in owned media and earned media. We're born journalists, so we have a very strong PR strategy. But the owned media are for us the most important thing. Like we see ourselves also as media. So our team is also very, very engaged, and we really believe in the word to mouth. We were discussing earlier, and you phrased it beautifully, like media is for us really important, but it's not the buying of media, but the creating of media. That's for us really important.
And expand a little on how you do that, because events and experiences are very important at Tony's, aren't they? And then beginning to,
Yeah, we have our office space is also an interesting example. So we have quite a cool office, and we also have a chocolate store in the office. So the door is always open. So we have this open door policy. Every end of the month, we organize talks in the office. So everybody working at Tony's has a turn to give a talk. People subscribe for the talk, so we host 200 people every month in our office. So that is an example.
Yeah. And so that's consumers being invited in almost into the fabric of the brand.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They are the brand.
Yeah. Christina, how do you obviously dramatic change going on in your industry. How do you find a consistent voice? How do you maintain it? Because I think it's something that Audi has been absolutely brilliant at over the years.
Yeah, it is certainly a challenge. I think culturally we still always do have this challenger and the Vorsprung mindset, which, yes, comes from our key claim, embedded in us, yes? But we... well, the framework is certainly set by the head office. This is all about what are our brand values and what is our attitude internally, but also externally. Yeah? But then, however, spinning it further, how to interpret this in the different markets, yes? This is certainly where we actually take in different knowledge from the different regions. So the US, for example, it is fully appropriate to also just do advertising with a competitive brand positioned right there, yeah? This would be also legally not possible in a lot of other countries, yeah? So in Europe, we're very much about trying to humanize our technology much more. Our UK colleagues have done this really well recently with a big campaign on clowns, positioning, well, other drivers can be clowns, but however, our technology is clown-proof. So just, getting a human spin on that. And China, again, is something slightly different. So in general, we try to maintain, yes, this challenging mentality. We're never afraid of a comparison. But to what extent, we always leave this to the markets to interpret.
I want to just touch on, Michael, it's a question for you about so many conferences recently, and it's obviously an industry trend and discussion point. There's this conversation around in-housing and brands bringing more and more agency services and media potentially in-house. Now, your department, the mind control department, you in many ways, you are in-housing everything.
Yeah.
And I just, interesting if you could talk a little about how that feels.
Well, I come from the agency side, working as a creative in multiple agencies. And I think the big difference is that when at Oatly, the way that we've just kind of set up this department of mind control is that it's meant to be more than just kind of communication. It's meant to be everything. So we have a hand in product development, every aspect of the company. So in some ways, there's so much potential, but that potential is completely overwhelming because there are so many different levers and buttons you can push. So in that way, I think the brand that we've created and the movements that we've created would be very, very difficult to have with the client-agency relationship. The fact that the three creative directors are so deeply embedded in the company and with a fair amount of influence in the company means that we can take these macro, we can take the company in completely different directions depending on where we think we're going to make the most impact from a sustainability perspective. So it's quite exciting.
And as you grow and scale, how do you think that may or may not change?
Yeah, I mean, I think in these relatively early days, we've just kind of come across as this weird kind of quirky brand and developed quite a following from that. But as we were talking about last night, some cafes are not using our product because we're suddenly not the cool hipster brand anymore. And that's a factor and function of time and our growth. But I think for us, it's about transitioning. I mean, big isn't necessarily bad. And, with bigness comes influence. And so now we're really having conversations about, okay, now that we have this following, now that we have this attention, what can we do? So we go from being this weird, quirky brand to a brand that is attempting to change laws across Europe. And I think that's quite interesting.
I think the thing is, if you do start growing, then of course all of a sudden you feel, hey, there's something to lose, so you start becoming afraid. And this is certainly something that we have discussed a lot at Audi as well. How do you remain fearless and keep going with this attitude, and every once in a while, just a breakout as well.
And can I just be very precise? What is it that helps you be? Is there something that helps you be fearless?
I think this is also as well like a top-down approach, certainly. Yes, like you need to know that like people are always behind you if you do dare to do something like in communication differently, and if you do dare to directly compare yourself to competitors. But I think this is certainly something that has been built over time, just an attitude that we have never been afraid of a comparison. We do believe in good products. We're super proud of the e-tron that we finally have to the market. Again, we weren't the first one, but we genuinely think that we do have a competitive edge now.
I mean, it's easy because where that feels, because it can come from a very strong internal culture, can't it? And at Tony's, you're building a particular kind of culture. Pascal, can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, we see ourselves also as a medium, and we really build the brand inside out. So we think like it's not only the people building the brand, but the people are the brand, and it starts within the team. So we have a pretty strong culture, which is driven from 4 key values, and they're outspoken, a mind of your own, entrepreneurial, and make you smile. And we check in everything that we do that those core values are in there. And also, Tony's is now at a place where we are growing fast. We're a market leader now in the Netherlands. When I joined the company 5 years ago, it was a completely different ballgame. We were this cute challenger and this startup that was growing. And now being a market leader, you see that the audience is viewing you differently. Like you were saying, like it's like, whoa, you're big now. Do we still believe you? And therefore, it's so important to have this fearless culture. And we even have an award now for the team. So every quarter we have a quarterly meeting, and you can be nominated for the Off-Piste Award. And that's for people to do things that are actually different than we had thought so. So for people to be a little bit naughty, but still be very successful.
Right. Interesting. I want to kind of draw this session to close by asking, because so often there's this sense that if you're a challenger company, that somehow you're unique, you have unique founders, you're in a unique place in the world. If you were to go to, away from Tony's or Audi or Oatly in either direction and go and advise a category leader at some point in your career, what would you take from the companies that you currently work in? And maybe Michael, if I start with you. So if in the unlikely circumstances that future you moved on from Oatly, and is there anything that you would take to a category leader?
I think that's a really difficult question. I mean, to be honest, I don't really have a lot of hope. It depends on the company, obviously.
Sure.
I think that I mean, most people are pretty good, at least consumers are good at seeing through bullshit. And if a company suddenly takes a U-turn, that's going to raise red flags. And the measures and the actions that have to be taken to build that proof have to be done over the course of a long time. And so as a consultant, I'm not sure I would have any impact on that.
I mean, unless, of course, because there are always companies that have most companies started with something, I guess. So there's always something that can be found, stirred.
Yeah, I would say there's nothing wrong with being a big category leader, and I think it is about using your influence in ways that feels genuine.
Yeah. Christine, if you maybe went the other way, are there any things that you would take maybe from a company like Audi, VW Group, and advise somewhere else?
I think it would be the first thing would be the spill on the fearless communication, yeah? No matter how big you actually are growing. I think what I genuinely appreciate also about my job, and that I was fortunate enough to work in the market, but also in the head office, is the whole thing of expanding a brand into multiple markets, into multiple cultures. So, and I think I had some huge learnings from that yes, you need to stay very true to your attitude and to your brand core. However, you need to be able to interpret it locally as well. Yeah, because there is different audiences, and if you move from a product-centric to an audience-centric brand, there is just simple cultural learnings that you actually need to integrate.
I wanted to end by, because the couple of sessions before us were very much about leadership and resilience and aligning your personal values to what you want to achieve in the world. You're both kind of next generation brands, missionary brand. At a personal level, Pascal, would you describe yourself as a missionary person if you took the Overthrow 2 Challenger test? Do you know what you'd come out as?
Yeah,
are you a missionary in life as well as at work?
Yeah, absolutely. I started my career within a big corporate environment. So I spent my first 13 years working at Heineken, which was really cool. And I learned a lot. It gave me a lot of opportunities, but there was a point of time. And also because there were personal things changing that I really tuned in with myself. And I was thinking, whoa, I love my job. I'm so passionate about it, but I'm also a working mom. I have to dedicate a lot of time to my work. Let's make sure that it contributes to something that I believe in. So at that time, I changed my career and started in a role at an NGO, which in the end brought me to Tony Chocolonely. It was very fulfilling.
Interesting. So, I think that's a fantastic way to wrap this up. So we've Overthrow 2 comes out in June. So you've had, I hope, a sort of teaser insight into some of the interviews and some of the discussions we've had in the book from these brands and other brands. If you haven't already, you can take the Challenger test either outside. There's a small kind of booth, or you can take it online on the app. But thank you very much to a great panel, fantastic insight into how you can challenge the world and make an impact with brands. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's hear it for Hugh, Michael, Pascal, and Kristen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful insight into how Challenger brands work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.